Have you ever felt like you're living in a room full of people who can't hear the music playing in your head? You sense undercurrents, spot cracks before they form, and feel emotions pulsing beneath polished smiles, and yet no one else seems to notice. What if I told you that this isn't a curse, but a gift waiting to be unlocked? In this video, we dive into Carl Jung's profound insights on intelligence and emotional awareness. How seeing too much and feeling too deeply can isolate you. Yes, but also guide you toward wholeness. You'll discover why top thinkers often wrestle with anxiety and loneliness, and how the hidden inner figures, the anima and animus, shape every relationship, every longing, and every fear you've ever had. Stay with us until the end to learn how to transform your overfeeling into your greatest compass rather than a burden. The simple yet powerful practices Jung recommended for integrating those shadow selves you've silenced for so long. The surprising reason why your deepest insights, once shared, can ripple out and connect you with the people who truly understand you. By the final minute, you'll see why your sensitivity isn't a flaw to hide, but the very lantern that will light your path to authenticity, connection, and lasting inner peace. Stick around. Your unseen self is waiting to be heard. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. Carl Jung never embarked on his groundbreaking work to mold us into pale reflections of one another. He dared to study behavior not to iron out our quirks, but to awaken the hidden symphony of our souls. In his eyes, our peculiar depths, the shadows we hide, and the soaring visions we barely dare to acknowledge were never malfunctions to be corrected. They were clarion calls to something greater. And yet, to answer that call, you must descend deep into the uncharted caverns of your being. You must confront the voices you hushed, touch the scars you swore to forget, and face the living, breathing figures that have quietly scripted your loves, your longings, your deepest fears. These are not mere daydreams or stray thoughts. They are the anima and animus, those relentless inner companions who have been waiting patiently, insistently, for you to notice them. Imagine the sudden heart-pounding obsession with a stranger, the inexplicable irritation towards someone who feels eerily familiar, the jarring moment when your actions seem to come from a different you altogether. That trembling voice in your mind, that's the anima or animus stirring, demanding your attention. In men, this unconscious feminine energy can erupt as unpredictable mood swings or a heart aching for a love story that exists only in dreams. In women, the unconscious masculine often shows up as relentless inner critique, a fortress of intellect that shuts out tenderness, or a numbness that shields you from feeling anything at all. I've felt the frenzied chaos these forces unleash, the reckless pursuit of fantasy partners, the endless battles in relationships that feel more like wars fought in the basement of your soul. Yet Jung, with his raw honesty, refused to glamorize the danger. He warned us, neglect these hidden energies, and they can rip your world apart. They carry a silent, fatal potency that, if ignored, may lead to heartbreak, despair, even tragedy. Here's the fierce truth I've come to believe every moment you've been blindsided by emotions. You can't explain every argument that felt like it came from another time, every frantic plea in your heart to be heard. This is why Jung's work matters more than ever. We are not merely contending with society's pressures or the whims of those we love. We are locked in an epic struggle with the untamed wilderness within. The enemy is not outside, it wears your face. But there is hope. The very figures you fear, the anima and animus, are not saboteurs, but secret guides. Once you turn toward them, name them, and invite them into the light, everything shifts. You stop pointing fingers. You begin to stitch the fragmented pieces of your soul back together. And yes, it's messy. Sitting with these shadows means disharmony tears even a dizzying sense of unmooring, but it's also liberating as the projections that once haunted you begin to dissolve, as the trembling panic in your chest softens. You realize you no longer need someone else to fix you. In that sacred space, you build a bridge to your true self, the self unafraid to speak its truths, unafraid to lead with its scars as badges of honor. And on the other side of that bridge stand the unseen kindred spirits who have been searching for the exact light you carry, not crowds, but real compassionate souls who feel the tremor of your clarity and whisper back, "You're not alone." This, I believe with all my heart, is the miracle. Jung offered us a journey into the depths of our being, where the shadows become a source of radiant power and the soul, finally whole, can stand tall, fierce, and joyfully alive. I've always been struck by Jung's haunting observation. A man who knows more than others becomes lonely, because awareness doesn't just illuminate, it separates. Think about that for a moment. How painful it must be to stand in a brilliant spotlight of insight, only to find yourself drifting farther from the warmth of others. In that widening gap between what you perceive and what you can safely speak, doubt creeps in like a cold draft under the door. You begin to question your opinion. Am I imagining things? And you shrink back not because your inner light has dimmed, but because you've learned that every truth you utter demands a price. In a society addicted to comfort, authenticity is a luxury few can afford. I've felt the sting of that silent compromise. The more often I'm dismissed or brushed aside, the more alluring the thought becomes of simply closing my mouth. It's such a misleading relief to read the room before reading your soul, to clip away the jagged corners of your thoughts so you'll fit more snugly into someone else's expectations. But each concession is a tiny death of the seer within the part of you that once believed your gifts could bridge you to others now caged by the fear of being cast out. Silence may spare you the sharp pang of rejection, but it steals something far more precious, your sense of self. There comes a shattering moment when you realize that with every withheld confession, a piece of you vanishes until the person people admire is merely a polished mask, not the vibrant complex being beneath. At that fork in the road, speak and risk exile, or stay silent and lose yourself. You're confronted with an ancient dilemma that transcends time. Consider the tale of the wise king who governed a realm of reason and compassion. He was not famed for his armies, but for the crystalline purity of his judgment. Night after night, he listened more than he spoke, healing disputes and sewing together communities with his quiet wisdom. Then came the witch's dark enchantment. A single drop of her potion poured into the kingdom's only well turned every citizen to delirium. By dawn, everyone except the king. By noon, the court's reason had dissolved. They babbled riddles, accused neighbors of phantom crimes, and praised utter nonsense as if it were gospel. To them, the chaos was normal. To him, it was a nightmare ripping the heart out of his world. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. When he tried to sound the alarm, they branded him unwell, whispered behind his back, and plotted his removal, not because he'd faltered, but because he refused to join their madness. Alone in his tower, the king stared at the poisoned chalice set before him. Drink and belong, or refuse and be banished. Can you imagine that crushing weight of choice? His isolation mirrored the seer's fate. Remain true and face exile or surrender, authenticity for acceptance. That night, in a moment of heart-rending sorrow, he drank, choosing the hollow safety of oblivion over the piercing loneliness of truth. The morning light brought celebrations. Our king is one of us again. They cheered, their voices brimming with relief. They believed he understood their world, but in truth, he had only surrendered his voice to join them. He traded his clarity for company, and the kingdom's polite madness marched on, orderly and proud. This isn't just a fable about a ruler in a poisoned well, it's your reflection. Have you ever swallowed the jagged edges of your insight just to fit in, laughed at a tasteless joke because you craved approval, nodded along when every fiber of your being screamed, "That's not right"? If so, then you've been sipping from that same cursed cup. Maybe you didn't notice at first. Perhaps you've been sipping for years, each reluctant gulp erasing fragments of your truth, dulling the vibrant sensitivity that once set you apart. Yet beneath the veneer of belonging lies a deep, persistent grief, the hollow ache that comes only from silencing your voice to preserve the peace. Carl Jung's warning pierces my heart every time I revisit it. The greatest danger isn't in being wrong. It's in losing yourself inside the collective, in trading your clarity for applause, in giving up your mind so you don't lose your tribe. How fiercely true that resonates when I catch myself whispering conformity to avoid another awkward glance. Jung taught that becoming whole individuation demands solitude. It asks you to swim against the current, even when every person you love is carried downstream. It asks you to endure the sting of isolation, the tremble of vulnerability, the loneliness that only courageous truth can birth. But he also offered a guiding star. No matter how isolated you are, if you do your work truthfully and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. Unknown friends, not saviors, not crowds, just real people who don't flinch at your truth. You will never meet these kindred spirits if you keep drinking from that poisoned well. You will never find them If you continue the act of pretending, you find them when you dare to stand in your truth, even if it empties the room. You find them when you refuse to shrink your voice to fit. When you choose authenticity over ease, clarity over comfort. Perhaps you still clutch the goblet torn between acceptance and authenticity. That's perfectly human. But remember, every time you see clearly and stay silent, a piece of you fades. And every time you speak, voice quivering or strong, you ignite something extraordinary. The spark of the soul that was born not for quiet conformity, but to awaken the sleeping, to guide the lost, and to remind the world that truth, however costly, is the most precious gift you can offer. There's a hidden toll that comes with seeing too clearly, a quiet cost of clarity that doesn't grab headlines or erupt in dramatic crises. Instead, it nestles itself gently on your chest during a friendly dinner, where you smile at the small talk even as you feel the full weight of all the unspoken truths swirling around you. It hums softly beneath the clatter of everyday life, a low, insistent reminder that you perceive much more than is ever acknowledged. And here's what breaks my heart. The pain often isn't in the vision itself, but in the act of pretending you don't see. I know I've done it more times than I can count. Picture this. You're at a dinner table, laughter bubbles around you, but suddenly the mood sours with one offhand remark. You feel the shift in the room like a gust of cold wind. You catch the quick exchange of worried glances, the almost imperceptible flinch in someone's eye, the subtle retreat of warmth in a friend's posture. Your heart pounds with the knowledge that something painful just slipped by everyone else, but you keep your lips sealed. Why? Because you've been burned for speaking up so many times that staying silent feels safer, even if it scars your soul. You become a master of self-censorship. You polish your thoughts in private trimming away every jagged edge until your ideas are smooth enough to pass unnoticed. You've learned to tuck away the raw electric sparks of your insight, shelving them behind a carefully curated smile and a well-rehearsed quip. You've perfected the art of buoyant small talk, those effortless, how's it going exchanges, while the world's deeper tremors pound against your ribcage like an insistent drum. Each time you laugh at a hollow joke or murmur, "Sure, you're right," when you know they're not, a tiny shard of your authentic self breaks off and is lost forever. This coping strategy even has a clinical name. Psychologists call it masking. Some cynics might label it feigning. Carl Jung, with his uncanny understanding of the soul, might have mourned it as soul loss, that aching hollow that grows when we give up pieces of ourselves for a seat at the table. Believe me, I've felt that ache deep in my bones, the slow, insidious erosion of my voice, the bittersweet pang of watching my light dim in the pursuit of acceptance. And here's the cruel irony to everyone around you: you remain the one they can count on, the artful conversationalist with the quick comeback, the compassionate friend who always seems to know just what to say, the unflappable presence that keeps the room calm. Yet beneath that polished facade, the real you retreats, your inquisitive mind teeming with wild questions and fierce convictions, creeps back into the shadows. Your sensitive heart, alive with empathy and longing, beats quietly in a hidden chamber. And your vibrant spirit, the part of you that dares to feel too deeply, waits patiently unheard and unseen. This vanishing act is heartbreakingly universal. We trade our clarity for comfort, our authenticity for applause, and in the process, we become strangers to ourselves. But the truth is, screaming inside us, the more we mask, the more we miss out on the fierce joy of being fully alive. And that realization, that raw emotional jolt, can be the spark we need to start peeling off the mask and reclaiming the luminous self we were always meant to be. I've come to believe that this loss, the gradual dimming of our inner flames, is perhaps the cruelest price we pay for blending in. Each time we swallow our unvarnished truth, a little more of our radiance fades. With every crucial observation, we bury every passionate response we tame. We brick by brick build an invisible fortress around the self we were born to be. And yes, the world will cheer for the well-mannered, inoffensive version of you, the one who always has the right answer, the perfect quip, the polished facade. But in the stillness of your heart, there's a hollow ache, a fierce longing to break those walls down, to speak your truths, to call out the silent undercurrents that pulse beneath polite conversation. You crave the freedom to let your authentic voice ring out, even if its reverberations rattle a room not yet ready to hear. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. There's a hidden tax that comes with the gift of keen perception, a corrosion so subtle it doesn't announce itself with jagged pain, but seeps into your bones like a slow leak. It's not the sharp sting of a single misunderstanding, it's the endless, draining effort of carrying everyone else's fears, smoothing every jagged edge, absorbing each flinch of discomfort so that the world around you feels safe. Day after day, you become the reliable anchor, the emotional fire extinguisher, the silent stabilizer roles you fulfill so instinctively that you scarcely notice how deeply they carve into your soul. Over time, it starts to feel normal that you're the one who adapts, the one who shoulders burdens not your own, the one who mutes your voice just to keep the peace. Yet, in those quiet moments when the room is dark and the din of polite laughter fades, you feel the weight of every unspoken word pressing down on you, reminding you of the brilliance you've let slip away. And in that ache lies a powerful truth. Your clarity, your depth, your very sensitivity are not flaws to be hidden, but lanterns meant to guide both you and those brave enough to follow. I've lived it myself, that gentle, relentless fatigue that sinks into your chest after yet another social gathering where you swallowed the wildfire in your heart just to keep the peace. There's a perverse comfort in going along with the current, your voice muffled like a candle smothered behind glass. But underneath, there's a raw, gnawing ache that murmurs, "Who am I?" when my truth is muted. It's as if part of you withers each time you choose harmony over honesty. And here's the cruel irony: the more you shield others from your genuine feelings, the more alienated you become from your soul. And that is the real trap we fall into. We become artisans of self-erasure. The defense mechanism of silence transforms into a second skin so smooth and familiar that we forget it's even there. We learn to craft our words into unthreatening shapes, to tuck away the sharp edges of our insights behind polite agreement. "I'm fine, really?" we'll say, even as our heart hums a dissonant chord. Over time, all those "you're right" s and "it's okay" s pile up like sediment, burying the vibrant you under layers of false reassurance. Then inevitably, the dam breaks. It might happen in the dead of night when your heart races so fiercely you wonder if it might burst. Or it might arrive in the middle of the supermarket when a sudden wave of grief crashes over you so unexpectedly that you clutch the cart handle, gasping for air. Or perhaps the revelation comes more slowly, a dawning horror that the very people you cherish have never truly seen you, that they prefer the placid mask you wear over the blazing authenticity beneath. In those moments, you realize that the cost of fitting in has been far greater than you ever imagined. You've traded your voice for the illusion of belonging, and the price is a part of yourself you may never fully reclaim unless you find the courage to speak again. That, my friend, is the reckoning. The moment you see that the mask you perfected has become your prison, and it's also the beginning of the most courageous work you'll ever do, the work of individuation. Jung called it the journey to reclaim the self you sacrificed in the name of belonging. It's not a simple revelation. It's a process of unlearning all the survival mechanisms you crafted over the years, unlearning the ways you twisted your words, soft-stepped around your own needs, and doubted your brilliance. True awakening isn't just about glimpsing who you are. It's about excavating the bold, untamed parts of yourself that once spoke freely. It's about listening again to those small, insistent intuitions you abandoned when the world told you they were too much. And it's about daring to live from that place of raw honesty, no matter how unsteady your knees, no matter how unfamiliar that path feels. Because on the other side of that bravery lies a life of genuine connection, where your voice matters not for its polish, but for its fierce, authentic resonance. Reclaiming your clarity is nothing short of a double-edged sword. The moment you decide to peel away the layers of camouflage you've perfected, you start to vanish into plain sight, not as the ever-pleasant, agreeable version of yourself that everyone expects, but as the beautifully flawed, unapologetic person you truly are. And yes, that exposure can feel terrifying. Suddenly, the well-worn safety net of approval you've relied on unravels, and the loneliness, that familiar aching loneliness rushes back in like a cold wind through an open door. It stings to realize that some of the people you care most about have never met this version of you, and heartbreakingly, some of them might never want to. But here's what I've learned and why I believe you must press on the life you yearn for these soul-deep connections, the exhilarating freedom, the unshakable sense of belonging only begins on the far side of all that pretending. It's on the horizon you can't reach if you remain hidden behind your polite mask. And then something extraordinary starts to happen. The weight you thought you'd carry forever doesn't vanish. It transforms. No longer does it sit heavy in the dark corners of your heart, haunting you with shame and secrecy. Instead, it begins to shimmer with purpose, turning into something sacred. The burden that once felt like a relentless curse slowly becomes a glowing beacon. This metamorphosis is so subtle, you almost miss it. One day you're staggering under the crushing insight that once seemed too much to bear. The next, you offer that insight like a lantern to someone fumbling in the dark. It's not that the world has suddenly softened, but that you have. You have stopped treating your sensitivity as a defect. You've stopped apologizing for the depth of your perception. You've realized that your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a compass pointing you toward truth. You've come to see that your inner noise is not chaotic static, but a guiding melody. And those suppressed parts of yourself, the ones you once believed were too wild or strange, they are precisely what someone else has been silently longing to find. Your courage to shine your light, to let that burden glow, becomes a magnet for kindred spirits who recognize your lantern for what it truly is, a gift. And that's the journey we all walk when we choose to honor our clarity over comfort. Now, I want to hear from you. What insight has struck you most deeply in this video? What single truth will you carry forward into your daily life? Share your answer in the comments below. Let us know one thing you've learned and how you plan to put it into practice. If you like this video, please leave your comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.